Superhero Stuff You Should Know is part of the Greenlit Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Ben from Superhero Stuff You Should Know, and I have an important announcement for you guys. At the end of every single episode of Superhero Stuff You Should Know, you might hear us shout out to our fans, one of whom is Matt Herring, who was one of the original SuperHouse fans. He's always given us his support, and now it's time that we support him. We've just recently found out that Matt has been diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. And as a cancer survivor myself, I know personally that there's a lot of emotional and financial strain that comes into that. His wife, Kelly, has set up a GoFundMe account at gofundme.com/f/Matthew-kicks-cancer039s-butt. And hopefully you can help reduce the financial strain to that, as well as some of the emotional strain that comes with that. Again, that's gofundme.com/f/Matthew-kicks-cancer039s-butt.
Matt Herring was the first, I guess you could say, true SuperHouse fan. We were SuperHouse at that time. You know, the first fan of this podcast and what we do here, and has always supported us, talked about us, and he's from a town close to where I'm from, and so we share that as well, and just a huge superhero fan, and, you know, nerd like the rest of us, and now he's going through that, and if you could donate just at least any amount of money to that link that Ben just said, that would be truly appreciated. Just hang in there, Matt. You'll beat this thing soon.
And welcome, everyone, to a special mini episode of Superhero Stuff You Should Know, a SuperHouse podcast. This is Ben, the man who knows too much about Batman, and with me, as usual...
Man, you know who it is. It's Andrew, everybody. I didn't want to do too crazy of an intro for this one, given the subject matter.
Yes.
So, yeah. We do these minis every now and again. You'll see them. They're not monthly or anything, but they come up. So, yeah, take it away, Ben.
Yeah, so this is a mini episode for anyone who doesn't know the full story of what's been going on with these Justice League movies. There was one in 2017, and now there's a new one on HBO Max that's now 4 hours. What's up with that? If you don't know the full story, or if you've seen both versions but you don't know exactly why there's a Snyder Cut or why they even had that version in the 2017 version, this is for you or whoever you want to forward this over to. So let's dive into what I'll call, quote, why releasing the Snyder Cut was true justice.
Oh, shit.
I'm
ready.
It's called the Snyder Cut, obviously, because the director, Zack Snyder, is the director of Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman, and obviously Zack Snyder's Justice League. These were 3 films out of a 5-movie arc that he had planned, with Justice League 2 and 3 already mapped out. And in terms of how far it's been mapped out, just to give you an idea, Batman vs. Superman and the Justice League trilogy were outlined out before Batman vs. Superman was shot.
Wow.
According to Snyder, Warner Brothers thought the original Justice League movie ideas that he had with Chris Terrio were too risky, and so he and Chris Terrio were forced to rewrite it. So already the version that we got is not the original, it's not even the original Justice League version that he wanted to do, but it's pretty close. You know, it's way closer, obviously, than the one that came out in 2017. But just to show awareness, you know, we know naturally this happens. You know, with Studio Temple films, there's a whole bunch of scripts that are made or unmade. The studio, for better or worse, does own the rights to these characters, and people like Christopher Nolan or Zack Snyder, Tim Burton, all these people sort of come in as creatives to bring their vision of that specific character to life, but they don't own these characters. So I just wanted to acknowledge that up front, because this isn't just about, like, you know, Zack Snyder, you know, he should do everything of DC. It's purely about what happened and what led to this Justice League movie.
I mean, shit, if Bob Kane and Bill Finger don't technically own Batman, you know, they definitely don't own him. You know, it's a corporate entity, really, you know, as sad as it is to say that. I mean, that's just how it is, you know?
Yep. Yeah. So Batman vs. Superman comes out in March 2016. and it's due to it's basically met with poor critical reception, very low, Rotten Tomato scores, a lot of controversy about, why is this so dark? Why are Batman and Superman fighting? Why is this so long? All those sorts of criticisms.
Why are they fighting? It happens a lot in the comics. That's not exactly Snyder's fault.
Right, but maybe it's the reason why they were fighting in this specific movie, I think, is what the people... Because, Batman vs. Superman kind of introduced the idea to non-comic readers about Batman and Superman just being able to fight each other or even existing in the same universe to, a lot of the uninitiated.
I remember there being just comments on, or reading some articles, I don't even know if it was from a credible source, but, they're on set in London, Pinewood Studio, and it just became like a real dour mood on set for Justice League. Because the reviews for Batman vs. Superman were just not good. So
yeah.
I wonder, that's probably true, but I wasn't there, so I don't know.
Yeah, Snyder's working on Justice League while this is happening. So it's not like they can take him off Justice League right now because he's already working on it.
Yeah.
And in 2016. Mind you, also, a lot of Batman vs. Superman was cut down in the theatrical version that was released, and it was the Ultimate Edition, which is, I think, universally agreed to be the superior cut of the film, as we saw when we examined it in our own series.
It is better, but it's just not, still not great.
Right, but again, we don't know how much interference was in that version, but that's a whole other thing entirely. I would say for here, though, in terms of what we're covering the history-wise, this is sort of the beginning of why there's a Snyder Cut. So due to this response, let's start with Warner Brothers chairman at the time was a man named Kevin Tsujihara, and he tells Snyder, you have to be supervised now by two major executives. Either one of these guys have to be on set at any time. So one of them is Jeff Johns, who is a famous comic book writer, as well as DC Entertainment creative chief at the time, as well as a DC Films executive named John Berg. So it's Jeff Johns and John Berg. Either one of them has to be on set during the production. You can't do anything without either one of them there.
This is way before Whedon reshoots. This is during Justice League production. Wow.
Yeah, in 2016, due to the response from Batman vs. Superman. So, according to Snyder, Johns and Berg mainly asked for more humor in the movie, which is why some of the jokes that we saw in the 2017 cut were actually shot by Snyder, were shown in trailers before Snyder left the project, but were cut from the Snyder Cut because those were studio mandated and not what he originally wanted.
Right.
Again, just to throw this out there, we acknowledge this film is, film in general is a collaborative process. A lot of directors do have to deal with executives or studios based off what they want because they're the ones giving the money and who own the rights to these characters. So
right.
This isn't necessarily all that unusual here.
Okay.
What's reported is that in 2017, Snyder had not necessarily finished, but he had a 4-hour cut of the Justice League movie. No effects were, finished. It's basically a rough cut at this, which is, again, natural for part of the process. This is part of movie making. You put together kind of an assembly cut and you show it to the execs just to show what, how far things are going along at that point.
Right.
So Kevin Tsujihara watches this in 2017 and he says that, okay, I don't like this. It's way too long. And he asks Snyder to cut down the film by half from 4 hours into 2 hours. Snyder feels that it's impossible to do that because he has to introduce all these heroes in a world domination plot in just 2 hours, especially given the fact that the only people who had solo films were Superman and Wonder Woman. And then, throw in Batman and the fact that he was in Batman vs. Superman and he's a more well-known character than like Flash, Cyborg, and Aquaman at this point.
Right.
So this is kind of on the studio side, is all the stuff that was leading up to it. But there's a layer of tragedy that we have to sort of go into, which is the next part and the next major factor, which is the death of Zack Snyder's daughter, Autumn. Now, much has been reported about her death, but I think we should cover more info about her life.
I gotta say, I do have a morbid curiosity about this that I have not done much research on. I'm sure I could have, but that's why
curiosity about
talking
what specifically?
To you. Why'd she kill herself? How'd she do it? Look, man, I know it's dark, but I think it's common for people to have morbid curiosity.
We don't have the details in terms of how she did it.
Okay.
And I think that's probably down to the Snyders, and that's, at the end of the day, that's not really going to change.
Oh, I respect that privacy. I mean, I'm not, but if it's in the news already,
Right.
Yeah.
So this is mainly from an article in Vanity Fair by Anthony Bresnikan, and this is the most that I could find on Autumn Snyder, which is natural given the fact that she wasn't, the public figure like her dad was.
Yeah.
So just to give you some information, Zack Snyder has 8 children.
Yeah.
3 of those children were adopted. And the first he adopted was Autumn.
Okay.
Autumn was Chinese. She was born in China in 1996.
Okay.
Adopted by Snyder and his wife at the time, Denise Weber, in 1997, when she was just a little over 1. And it was part of it was this role as an adoptive father, especially of a child from another country, that made the tale of Superman more appealing to Snyder, since Superman's, adopted child from another world kind of thing. So obviously that sort of played into how he wanted to do Superman, or how he was inspired to do
That
Superman
is
stuff.
interesting, because I can definitely see him as one of those guys that, I mean, I don't know for sure, but he seems like a guy that just doesn't like Superman, or didn't at first.
Maybe when he was younger,
because he's he's kind of a dark bro.
Right. But I mean, I think by the time he did Man of Steel, he was obviously over that.
Yeah.
Among all 8 of Snyder's children, she was the comic book fan, according to him.
Yeah.
She, at the time of her death, she was going to Sarah Lawrence to study to become a writer. Unfortunately, Autumn suffered from depression. And Snyder said that in her writing, quote, her main characters are always in this battle with things from another dimension that no one can see. But it's a serious war, and that war was happening to her every day. So you can see how the Justice League's war with Darkseid is kind of a metaphorical one for having mental health issues, of fighting against your demons, your parademons, or your literal dark side in a way.
There's something going on there, I think, in that movie, because like, people say Zack Snyder's dark, and he is dark, but I think this was, I don't know, just knowing his story, knowing the artist behind the art, I think kind of enhanced that experience. And it's not just Snyder being an edgelord. Like, he's in a dark place making this movie, and trying to come out on top of it. Like, it's not just dark for dark's sake in a lot of ways. So all that is just really interesting.
Yeah. Snyder said that she would often wonder about her worth. He said, quote, "What is my worth? What am I supposed to do? What am I about?" was kind of what she was always wondering about. The article in Vanity Fair mentions that Snyder has a picture of Autumn wearing Victor Stone's Letterman's jacket, and it's kind of no surprise that Autumn may sort of feel a connection to Cyborg. I'd speculate that maybe it's because of that connection that Snyder has Cyborg's line, "I'm not broken and I'm not alone."
Man, yeah, that was one of the, if not the biggest highlight of the movie.
Right. In March 2017, Autumn committed suicide. And despite rumors that Snyder was fired, Snyder is on record saying that in recent interviews, when going back to that time period, he said naturally he wanted to step away and focus on his family instead of fighting every day with the studio over this film. He said, quote, "We just lost the will to fight that fight in a lot of ways," which again is very understandable. I mean,
just break the contract at that point, man.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Autumn's favorite song was Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah, which was featured in Snyder's 2009 adaptation of Watchmen, as well as the trailer for the Snyder Cut, the first trailer that he put together for this HBO Max version. A cover it by her friend Alison Crow was sung at her funeral by Allison, and it's that rendition, it's that recorded version of the rendition that's played in the end credits of the movie.
Okay.
So you would think that with this going on, you have a director who has to step away due to a personal tragedy, and you have, this bad critical reception from the previous movie. Why don't you just delay the release until he can deliver something that's good? Seems to be the common question at this point of the story. So let's go into a report from The Wrap from around 2017. They said, according to them, the big reason was that there was AT&T and Warner Brothers were going to have, AT&T was buying out Warner Brothers. There's going to be this merger coming out.
Right.
The heads of Warner Brothers, again, Kevin Tsujihara, who was the one who mandated the 2-hour cut, as well as Toby Emmerich, who's president of Warner Brothers Pictures. According to an insider at the Wrap, these two executives were due for bonuses attached with the film's release, if the film was to be released in 2017. The merger, however, given the fact that with a lot of corporate mergers, a lot of people are let go, the merger may have forced them out of the studio in 2018. So if Justice League came out in 2018, they wouldn't get their bonuses for the movie's release. So Justice League had to premiere in 2017 for them to get the cash. So they decided to go forward with it with reshoots so that they could essentially get their bonuses. In the end, deciding to keep the release date was didn't turn out to be kind of a moot point because AT&T had to extend the deadline for the merger when the President's Justice Department was pushing back on this because of the whole idea of AT&T being a cable provider and content creator at the same time was kind of problematic.
Okay.
In their eyes. So that is what happened, and later on, Kevin Tsujihara, among this group, would later get ousted in 2019 in a sex scandal with actress Charlotte Kirk, where he was promising her roles in Warner Brothers movies in exchange for sex, despite having a wife and 2 kids.
All this like sleazy producer shit that you think is just a stereotype, and a lot of it seems to be true. Him and Weinstein, and a lot more probably that have been thus far too slick to be caught, maybe, but
it's a shame because Kevin Tsujihara is the first Asian American to run a movie studio, a major movie studio.
Yeah, it's like Warner Brothers is a fucking
nice representation.
Japanese American company, man. You know, and then now it's Walter Hamada, also Japanese American, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with needing Justice League to release in 2017, they need someone else to sort of quote unquote right the ship, or at least because they didn't like the cut that Snyder had, they wanted reshoots, and Snyder wasn't available, so they primed their replacement, who, as everyone knows, was Avengers director Joss Whedon. Joss Whedon was already working with Geoff Johns on a Batgirl movie that was announced around the same time, I believe. That he was doing that. I believe they announced that he was doing Batgirl before he was going to do the Justice League movie.
Yeah, people wanted Nicholas Winding Refn to direct it.
Yeah.
If you go see Drive, if you haven't seen Drive, because that movie fucking rules, and his DP also needs to, if he does it, that guy needs to shoot it, because goddamn. He has a great DP. Anyway.
Let's see. Press releases said that Snyder had handpicked Joss Whedon to replace him in light of this family tragedy. Obviously, this was not true. Snyder has denied this, yet the actors were sort of told to say this for the sake of good publicity. One of the actors told to say this was, of course, cyborg actor Ray Fisher. So this is where Ray Fisher comes in and his account of what happened during these reshoots. Last summer, Ray Fisher made it known about his true feelings when he tweeted a video of him in a convention in 2017 talking about how Joss was taking over from Snyder and how, Joss is a good guy and Snyder picked him for the reshoots and things are going well. And he accompanied this video with saying that he now would like to retract every word of that statement he said at that convention that he was essentially paid to say. Fisher has been the most outspoken critic of Joss Whedon from this production. In talking about his experiences with Whedon, he said that Whedon was reeling from the critical reception of his previous Marvel movie, Avengers Age of Ultron, in 2015, and was frustrated that people, quote, didn't get Age of Ultron. So
I don't know what he wanted them to get.
Ray Fisher felt that this was, quote, less about the work being presented and more sort of an ego stroke to say, well, look, if you like it in this movie, you should have liked it in that one. Ha, joke's on you, right, according to Fisher. So this is why people have noted that there's a repeated beat directly from Age of Ultron, where in that movie, Mark Ruffalo falls on Scarlett Johansson and his face lands right in her boobs. And the same thing happens
if you make a mistake,
with Ezra Miller falling on Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman.
We all know if you make a mistake, if you just repeat that mistake one more time, it cancels out. Yeah. We all know that, so.
Yeah, of course. So this could also explain the fact that this came from a frustration. Maybe there's a reason, like Joss Whedon never really took any press about this movie. There's not really a lot of interviews of him talking about him taking over the movie or honoring Snyder's work, which is extremely weird, even if you don't know what's going on at this time. He doesn't even take a co-director credit considering how much he shoots on it. The only credit that he has on the movie is as a screenwriter, because he did write 80 pages of a new script, which we saw in the 2017
that Justice League technically has Snyder as director still in the credits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Whedon also apparently constantly referred to Wonder Woman as Natasha, which is Black Widow's name from Marvel.
Was it constant? Was it constantly? Is that what he said?
Yeah, Fisher said that, quote, he kept accidentally calling Diana Natasha, which is crazy stuff. This was the conversation that they made me have with him before giving me the script. There was a lot of belittling on set. There was a lot of mocking both of previous works, actors, and people. He said, quote, listen, I don't like to take notes from anybody, not even Robert Downey Jr., is what Whedon apparently said to Ray Fisher.
Wow.
To this day, Whedon has not said anything about the allegations against him from Ray Fisher or from the accusers that came out later on this.
Probably for the best.
Yeah. But also says a lot.
It says a lot, but
that is true.
He's probably just wait until he's taken to court, maybe. I don't know, man. It's a fucking rough position. I mean, I want Whedon's money, but I wouldn't want to be Whedon.
Right, exactly. Whedon, as I said, wrote 80 new pages of the script and got the screenwriting credit on the final product, but goes uncredited as director for shooting 3/4 of the movie we got in 2017.
Let's put that in perspective for everybody real quick. Usually a reshoot is like around 2 weeks. It's very common to have reshoots, almost every movie. And people think, oh, they fucked up. They made a mistake. I've seen people say shit like that online. It's just, there's some minor mistakes or something, but it's usually around 2 weeks, and they fix it or they add something to it that makes it better or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what, maybe, God, I don't know, 10 pages. I don't know. It depends on the movie. But
yeah,
this is an extreme case where it's 3 months, which is a lot of movies full shooting time is 3 months, and this movie's
basically a whole new
2 weeks to 3 months. Yeah, so it's just this and the Han Solo movie, like stuff like this was more or less previously unheard of. This is sort of a modern day movie thing where we see these like massive reshoots.
Yeah. And not necessarily for the better, as we've been seeing.
Not for the better.
This one,
not in this case, yeah.
For this one, reportedly, they spent $25 million for the reshoots that Joss Whedon provided. And because of this interference, the cut is known among fans as we call it, the Justice League.
$25 million?
So that's $25 million.
For 3 months? That sounds low for this kind of movie.
It feels like there probably would be more.
They're lowballing it, I think.
Yeah, probably just to save face, maybe, in terms of what the public numbers are.
I think so.
Snyder leaves his name on it because, remember, at this point, there wasn't really an option for him to put he doesn't know what shoots are going on. He doesn't know all the stuff. He just figures, like, this is the closest that people get to see to what he shot anyway. So, sort of to honor the fans, he decides to leave his name on there, as well as his wife, Deborah Snyder.
Right. Yeah, she's producer.
Yeah. Other things that happened during the production, since Henry Cavill was in the middle of shooting Mission Impossible Fallout, he had a mustache.
This is the most famous oopsie.
Paramount did not allow him to shave it for the Justice League movie. I don't know why. I'm pretty sure Cavill will be able to grow that back in like a week or whatever. But Warner Brothers.
Cavill's probably didn't say much because he's under contract or something. But I bet you, man, he's flying in to film like for 4 days in the UK and then
back to Mission Impossible. Which was probably shot in America. I don't know where it was shot, but I think Cavill like had kind of a crazy month whenever that was, 2017, 2016. Like he was probably insanely busy. Like, and yeah, it's a contractual obligation for him to have that beard. So yeah,
it was a crazy time for him, I'm sure.
Yeah. Warner Brothers notoriously decided to give him a CG shave and decided to shave off the mustache. They put like the motion capture dots on the mustache to try to tape it down and everything, and basically shave him in post. And we all know how that turned out. If you've seen any footage of that, you know that he basically looks like he's a cartoon from the nose down.
It looks really bad.
Yeah,
really, really bad.
However, that could have just been, back in 2017, it was kind of a laughable, like, haha, like, look at that. But there's a lot more serious stuff that went on in these reshoots. So Ray Fisher has publicly claimed that Whedon was abusive on set, and that the Warner Brothers executives, specifically Geoff Johns and John Berg, were enablers to his actions. Gal Gadot had told the Los Angeles Times that she also had a negative experience when working with Whedon, and reported it. And everything seemed to be taken care of to her satisfaction, at least. But if you think about it, like, you have Gal Gadot, who is, just this new star who came from, this hit Wonder Woman, who they want to please, versus Ray Fisher, who I imagine they see as a nobody right now because his big debut is this movie.
Right.
So Deborah Snyder has corroborated hearing reports of Whedon having problematic behavior as well. And making matters worse is the fact that almost all the new characters that who Whedon provided in this movie were white. So Whedon added a Russian family. He added a robber played by Holt McElhaney in the beginning. He added a white criminal who Barry Allen draws Sharpies on his face.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, all of them are white, and all the characters cut were people of color. So
right.
We got like Mark McClure, coincidentally, seems to be the only cameo actor who's not one of the heroes brought back. Mark McClure being the Jimmy Olsen actor from the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, was brought back to shoot a different cameo. But none of the following actors were brought back. African-American actress Kiersey Clemens as Iris West. African-American actress Karen Bryson as Eleanor Stone, Cyborg's mother. Chinese actor Zhang Kai, credited as Ryan Zhang, played Ryan Choi. Even C. Amanda Maud, who played Linda Reed, the waitress who gets help from Cyborg in a poignant scene in the movie, she's a Chinese American actress.
The one at the ATM.
The one at the ATM, yeah.
Yeah.
So, meanwhile, both Victor and his father's stories were severely cut, with him being played by Ray Fisher and Joe Morton. As well as Barry Allen's was cut down to basically be comedic relief. Barry Allen was played by Ezra Miller, who, even though they play Barry Allen as someone who only shows interest in women in the theatrical cuts we've seen, Miller in real life identifies as queer and gender neutral, who uses they, them pronouns. So, Seems awfully not so coincidental that all the people of color and somebody who is part of the LGBTQ community are the ones who are marginalized in favor of new scenes of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman.
So you think, we're speculating here, but is that, God, how can I say this? It seems so bad on the surface that, do you think it was definitely on purpose, or is it just subconscious on Whedon's part? Like, I don't think anybody, woke or not, I don't know. You must have some knowledge of what you're doing there, and like what he did. Look at that list of everybody cut. Like, do you think he was like evil on purpose, or is this just some sort of subconscious mistake?
We have a quote.
Okay.
So Cyborg's story was truncated for the film. Snyder said that he's the heart of the movie, as we've seen. Now that we've seen his cut. According to Ray Fisher, the reason that he was cut down was because Geoff Johns and the other execs told him that, quote, they don't want an angry black man at the center of this movie.
Oh my God. Wait. Let me just, okay. Whedon said that to Fisher.
He said Geoff Johns and the other execs said that to Ray Fisher.
Okay. I have a hard time processing this. Okay, so there's a stereotype for having called the angry black man. Mm-hmm. So, God, are they... Yeah, it sounds terrible. It's just... Maybe they wanted to stay away from that stereotype, but then you're kind of... I don't know, man. It still doesn't... Something's still not right, isn't it?
I feel like this is a scenario. If you're in their shoes where you ask the person involved, where you're just like, hey, we're afraid that this might come off with a stereotype. What do you think? Because you're the one who's playing this and everything. And if you feel like this is problematic, then we should work together to fix it. You should ask.
True.
You ask the person who is affected by it. Don't think that you can say what. It's kind of like how we talked about in an upcoming, for you guys out there. This probably will release around the same time as our discussion of the movie, but there was kind of a controversy about the Amazonian's armor, how it's a little bit more revealing in the Justice League movie compared to Patty Jenkins's Wonder Woman, and one of the actresses who played the Amazons defended them, saying like, well, no, we're bodybuilders, we want to show that off, we want to show off muscles. I felt strong in that instance.
That's I mean, dude, maybe some people could say, we don't talk about this already, but it can come off as exploiting women in some sense to some people, but what we tried to say was we just kind of feel like they want the actors themselves didn't feel exploited. They didn't feel, and it's part and parcel of superhero genre too, to show strength as well, physical strength. And are men the only ones that get to do this, and Snyder's already filmed a bunch of naked boys in 300 as well, so you know what I mean. I don't know, man.
Exactly.
It's just showing off the human form, and it wasn't entirely gratuitous because they're using their strength to protect something in the story as well. So I don't know. If you're, women listeners out there, we'll say this in the other episode as well, but let us know if we're wrong. Let's start the discussion on this. We are two cis males talking about this issue, and maybe we're idiots. So,
right.
And yeah, so back to the actual topic. They probably should have had a panel of African Americans to kind of review that.
Or just ask the actors who are playing those roles.
Yeah.
Like, they're the ones representing this story. Do you think that this is problematic to the African American community? And if they said no because of X reasons, or like no because like it's natural for him to be angry, and I didn't watch this movie, the Snyder version, thinking like, oh, this is so stereotypical. When watching Cyborg, I just felt bad for Victor and wanted him to sort of come into his own, which he does at the end, which is exactly what you want to see. That's the whole point of having Cyborg in this movie. But yeah, as I said, like when it comes to these issues, I feel like you kind of have to ask the people who are involved, who are part of that community, rather than make the decisions for them or speak for them. Because there's been a lot of, as an Asian American male myself, there's been some times where people, I see a lot of white people offended for something that Asians, that seems to them like racist towards Asians, whereas to me, I'm just like, I thought that was hilarious. Go ahead. I'm like, it's weird to me to see this, where I'm like, I'm cool with it, but maybe some other people aren't cool with it. But also, if my Asian friends and I are laughing at it, and you're offended by it for something that's supposed to be about us, it's kind of a weird gatekeepy feeling to it. Whereas if it's a bunch of white people who are offended on your behalf, it's kind of like, okay, but why? Like, we should be angrier. That's that type of thing. Again, like this is also it can, different people react to different things. So there are certain things that maybe I might find it funny, but another Asian person won't as well. So we have to acknowledge that there's a diversity as well among different groups in terms of their reactions. So maybe maybe they would have asked Ray Fisher and those actors, and maybe some people still would have been angry, but at least those actors who were playing the roles felt that it was it was definitely a worthy exploration of character, and wasn't something that was going to be racially stereotypical.
Right. Yeah. I mean, dude, I'm white. I can't really comment on that shit. I understand. I mean, I don't know. Right. I mean, I've heard, being from the South, I've heard all kinds of shit. But, I don't know.
Right. Of course.
Yeah. But yeah. We just gotta get more woke together, everybody. A little bit more woke, I guess. Me included, of course. I'd never want to come off as like too virtue signally either. Like I've made mistakes in the past myself, and we grow, everybody. We grow.
Yeah, and I think there needs to be an element of forgiveness for that because of the fact that, like, if it's about education, if it's about educating people on that, how do you expect them to, quote unquote, be better?
Yeah.
If you don't give them that chance to grow from that.
Yeah, you just got to have the conversation and not be afraid of a debate with people. God, am I even on topic anymore? But just keep talking to people,
It is somewhat
man.
related, yeah.
Keep talking to people. Don't just yell on Facebook or fucking post some dumbass meme. Like, reach out, and we'll all grow together, everybody.
Yes. So, but that was what Ray Fisher was told, was that, quote, they don't want an angry black man at the center of the movie. And
Dude,
Ray Fisher
that's
obviously was not happy about this.
This is such it's every race topic is so it's more complex than I mean, it's simple in the fact that they were wrong. I'm not saying that they're right in any form or fashion.
Right.
But there is a stereotype for the angry black man out there, and I could see the studios wanting to avoid that. But at the same time, like what you're saying and what I'm also agreeing with, Ray Fisher is like, I don't see it like that, guys. I kind of like what my man Snyder is doing over here and what Terrio's written and Will Beall. So I don't know what the problem is. So
if anything,
you can't go through it. His fucking body's been blown to smithereens as well. You can be a little fucking angry, man.
Also, that's true to the comics. Like, it's of course, like, Batman can be angry about his parents being dead, but Cyborg can't. It's basic human emotion given what happened to him. What was something? There's something else I was going to say, but I lost it, I think.
Just to cover that just real quick. I mean, and to kind of circle back to everything we've been talking about. I've had conversation with black friends before about certain issues and this and that, and oftentimes for me as a white person, it's like, how can I say it? The issue, white people are in third grade in racist school, whereas black people are PhDs.
Right.
They just have, white people don't know fucking anything. That's how I felt. Like, it felt like a lot of times the issue was way deeper than I ever expected going in. And then I just had a conversation or two or three or four or whatever with black friends of mine in the past. And, like, the first reaction is like, damn, this is fucking way deeper than I expected. This issue or that issue or whatever. And what I'm trying to relate here is, like, it just seems like Whedon and Jeff Johns probably need to have a longer conversation with Fisher, and that's basically it. Not that I'm the wokest guy in the fucking world or anything. I'm not trying to be like that, but I'm not trying to. I always feel like I have to disclaim that, I guess. But but yeah. Anyway, go ahead,
Right.
Ben.
Yeah, I think what they did it did end up being worse, because what it led to was basically an erasure of his actual story.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing memorable about the Cyborg in the 2017 cut. Like, Ray Fisher does the best that he can, but he's given, like, actors can only do so much with a crap script, and what he's given is just barely any characterization. If we don't get any exploration of nearly the amount of exploration that we got in the Snyder version.
He says "booyah" though.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit. But
everybody wants the booyah, don't you know?
But I would say what they did was worse, because it is, what does it look like? You want to avoid, quote unquote, we want to avoid the angry black man stereotype. So we'll subsequently delete all the black people from this movie or reduce them in favor of the white people, because that's better.
Dude,
like, really?
This is like, yeah, I mean, that's terrible. There's also like this is going to be related, trust me, but there's a TikTok video out where, I mean, the guy's right wing, but he was saying that, like, now that we've taken Aunt Jemima and all the black people's faces off of every product imaginable, now there's only white people's faces on products in the stores.
Whoops.
And so it's like, man, I mean, maybe, okay, see, I'm telling you, it's always more complicated than you first think, So it's just
yeah.
And it's like,
I guess I don't know. Let us know out there if you're black, and let's continue this conversation. But I don't know. Let me know what you think about that, because I was like, damn, this guy. This is again. I lean left, but I'll listen to people. And that was like, this is a salient point, maybe,
Yeah, maybe that's not such a good thing. Yeah.
Now the supermarket's full of just white faces. So I don't know. I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know anymore, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where I'm just like, it's not. I don't even think it's my place to even speak for Asians for myself, because I'm just like, I can only speak from my specific experience as a Chinese American who grew up in Orange County.
Well, you need the panel. That's why you need the panel.
Yeah, exactly. Because we're all going to have differing opinions.
Yeah.
On that, but yeah, in general, there was obviously no panel here. It was a bunch of white people with money thinking that they could make decisions on what could happen with this.
Yeah.
Fisher has also accused Johns of calling him specifically to gloat about the fact that there was going to be a new cyborg in the Doom Patrol TV show. Now, naturally, because of the fact that Doom Patrol show was not going to be in the same continuity as the DC Extended Universe, it made sense for them to do that. And, this is not anything against the British actor playing Cyborg in that, Joyvan Wade. But Fisher said that it felt that Johns, who hadn't talked to him in a year, was only calling him to gloat about that.
I don't know why that's...
People,
if that is true, that's... it's not good. It's
people
I don't know
have
why.
Noted.
It's that guy's way richer than him. He has absolutely, I mean, his career he's more well known. He was already probably a millionaire before movies from comics. One of the few people that did that with comics. Well, at least I don't know. Maybe near millionaire. And then he started doing movie shit, and TV and stuff. So. And
maybe it's ego more than anything.
It's just ego. It's just kicking somebody when they're down, man. If it is true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you remember how Cyborg was introduced in Doom Patrol?
Oh man, I saw it and
it was a while
forgot.
ago.
Yeah.
Season 1, episode 2.
Yeah.
Season 1, episode 2. There's a woman at an ATM.
Oh my god.
And he's able to talk to her through that.
So it's the ATM again.
It's the ATM again, and he shows up in a hoodie.
Wow.
Yeah. Filmed after Zack Snyder's Justice League, because a majority of this movie, pretty much everything up until the last 20 minutes or so in the nightmare scene, was shot in 2016. Okay. So we have to put that in context here.
Right.
So the Warner Brothers execs watched the Justice League cut, and
they're like, "This is great."
No, they knew it was awful, according to the
Really?
Vanity Fair article.
Holy
One
shit.
of an anonymous exec said, quote, "It was so awkward because nobody wanted to admit what a piece of shit it was."
We're gonna have to release this shit
now. Chris Nolan and Deborah Snyder went to a screening. I'm not sure if it was the same one. They went to a screening and they both made a pact, and they went to Zack Snyder and said, quote, "You can never see this movie." Deborah Snyder said it would break Zack's heart.
So Deborah Snyder did see it.
Deborah Snyder has seen it. Zack, as of this recording, has not. However, I recently read a report saying that now that his cut is released, he might watch it.
God.
Just because, I mean, at this point, it's like, it's not going to be heartbreaking so much as you can just laugh and be like, okay, like, that's what people were talking about. Because, like, he got his vindication. He got his own cut out there, and everybody knows which one is better.
Dude, I mean, he's standing on, like, a unique position as a director where he has, like, this very clear example of something even more than the usual director's cut, just to show all the fans, like, if you just fucking trust me, you're gonna get something better than if you didn't trust me.
Right.
So
which was true.
it's just a real shining example that he's got. I mean, he's been put through the ringer, and he's obviously, sadly will never get his daughter back, but which is absolutely, you can't really make that comparison with the movie, but he, career-wise and art-wise, it's he's come out on top for the better, I think, because of this struggle, I think.
I feel like editing this movie and finishing it has sort of helped him and his family heal, given the fact that it is dedicated to his daughter. His daughter was the one he was partially making this for. you know. And so to be able to complete this vision and show it to all the world to see, and for everyone to know Autumn Snyder's name, and you know, we'll get into the whole campaign for suicide prevention in a bit, but it's it was definitely a cathartic experience, I would imagine, from his perspective.
Man, and yeah, I think you're right, and I think just again knowing the artist behind the art, you know, I don't know what it is, man. Maybe just the stories about Autumn have gotten to me. I don't know what it is, but I just accept the dark Snyder stuff. I accept Batman killing kind of now if it's coming from Snyder. I accept like the scene with Iris that has absolutely nothing to do with the plot overall, because it was directed so artistically.
It's one of those things where you have to excuse it because you're just like, I can't think of a better scene, though, to introduce Barry Allen's Speed in almost like, I mean, we'll get to it when we get to that episode, but to me it was like, oh, like they're kind of doing what they did with Quicksilver in X-Men Days of Futures Past. And then when it kept going, I was like, oh, it's not Quicksilver in Days of Futures Past. This is a meet cute.
I mean,
this
yeah,
is
yeah.
romantic comedy scene just with superpowers in a way. Like it's very elegant and artistic, as you said. And I'm just like, this got replaced with him doing Sharpieing glasses on a guy's face by Whedon.
Is ridiculous.
Yeah.
The way that scene was cut and edited and shot and all that, directed, I mean, it was, yeah, it's just so artfully done. The execution was so good that you just, I don't know. I just like, I don't give a fuck if it has nothing to do with the plot. I just totally forgive it. Like that with the singing Icelandic women too. It's just like, I like you, this in this day and age, and I like Marvel stuff. I'm never gonna shit on Marvel unless they really go downhill. You know, as a fan, I'm a fan of both of these things. The DC versus Marvel thing I think is dumb. Who wins in DC versus Marvel? The fans do. The fans win. if one of the others loses. So anyway, so it's like it's just like Marvel's so like they got like this cookie cutter thing going on which works for them, but now you get to see just a director just do like really artistic flourishes with his directing and his and the way he does a scene. It's just honestly refreshing as fuck, man. You know?
It definitely is. It is. Like, I think that there was this feeling before, like, obviously this has not aged well, but there was a feeling around the time that Nolan was out and Snyder was just starting with Man of Steel around like 2012 or 2013, that like, oh, like Marvel can like do their superhero stuff, but DC is all about like, you know, getting all these different directors' visions. Again, like this is not really this is not aged that well considering what we know now of Warner Brothers' interference with Snyder's visions here, but there is a point to it though in terms of like I can't see some like the closest we've gotten in terms of like the unique directors' voices in the Marvel stuff is James Gunn and Taika Waititi, I would say.
Right.
Everyone else is kind of like around the same general outline of it, and it works well because I think in that instance Kevin Feige is such a huge fan of everything. You know, he was sneaking in X-Men comics on the X-Men set when Bryan Singer was prohibiting them. He goes way back to that.
Oh, really? That's cool. Yeah, he knows what makes it tick. I mean, it's
he knows the art.
Yeah, that's their thing. They're Marvel. The MCU is like the grandest TV show of all time. Yeah, they're movies. A lot of it's movies, but it's kind of a TV style of filmmaking in a sense as well. Whereas DC is still doing kind of more old. I mean, yeah, it's kind of old school compared to what Marvel's doing, but you know, traditional.
Yeah,
filmmaking where the director really has, well, generally anyway, has a say. I mean, look at Joker. Look at Joker and Shazam, for example. You know, that's definitely like, you know, director led.
So the Justice League earned $657 million globally, but it had nearly $300 million budget, including the $25 million reshoots, as well as $100 million to $150 million in marketing costs. So that return was considered to be a money loser, especially considering the fact that, like, a few months later was Avengers Infinity War at $2 billion. So, not at all the whole, like, we got to catch up to Marvel type of feeling to it. So let's go into that was the release in 2017. So how did this get released in 2021? Well, before he left Warner Brothers, Snyder took his cut. He took his laptop, which had the unfinished 4-hour cut, no visual effects, no music. I think it was even in black and white, according to some sources. And it was basically a rough cut.
It's common to edit in black and white.
Oh, Max.
I think it's even if the movie's not going to be released in black and white, it might be edited in black and white for. I don't even know why. It's just something that they do. I forget. There might be some.
He also showed, like, whenever he was showing preview, he started showing preview images of his cut on Vero, which is like his main social media app. The only people in Vero are Snyder stands.
Snyder related, yeah.
Yeah, but they were all
Dustin
black and white.
Vero? I think Dustin might be on Vero.
Probably is. But anyways, it was obvious to fans, even before we knew the full details of it. It was obvious, like, somebody fucked with this movie, because we got Superman with the CG face. We got all these moments in the trailers that didn't make it into the movie, and that started a hashtag that started a movement, which is hashtag release the Snyder Cut. So,
and we never thought it would happen.
And this grew into a huge movement. They had a single engine airplane fly a banner that said release the Snyder Cut around both the studio lot of Warner Brothers in Burbank, as well as one of the San Diego Comic-Cons. They pulled together resources to buy a Times Square billboard to say it. Now, it was a huge outpouring of love for Snyder and wanting to get his cut out there. However, just like any movement, there's also a minority that sort of gives it a bad name. So a lot of people might associate this movement with the sort of toxicity that a minority of its fans have displayed in terms of attacking anyone who was against their cause. They were even attacking critics who said they didn't like Man of Steel or Batman vs. Superman. Keep in mind, I just want to say, this is not unique to just fans of Zack Snyder. Some people, might associate it purely with Snyder, but Snyder has denounced them, as well as his wife has denounced them. And I would say that toxicity in terms of fandom is parts of all types of fandom. You get that in Star Wars, certainly. Look at what happened with Kelly Marie Tran. You can take a look at even when Chris Nolan was doing the Dark Knight trilogy. People sort of associate the bad Rotten Tomatoes scores with Snyder's films, but when The Dark Knight Rises was getting less of a critical reception, less of a great critical reception compared to The Dark Knight, people were sending death threats to the critics. I remember that back in 2012.
Right.
So this is not something that is, unique to Snyder. This has been around for a long time. This is kind of part, and I think part of it just comes from the frustration, of, as a comic fan, you sort of grew up as, a lot of times you grow up feeling like an outsider, and the frustration of that. That's why you relate to comics, and especially if you grew up, around the time that we did in the 80s and 90s, where comics were just not seen as that cool, and there weren't really a lot of superhero stuff, and that was nerd shit. You kind of grow up with this resentment of, like, wanting other people to see that and wanting to, fight back in a way. So I can see where that came from, but Snyder has said, quote, "I 100% think it's wrong. I don't think anyone should be calling anyone anything." In terms of specifically,
is Snyder the wokest director, bro? I'm really starting to see a pattern here. Snyder, I don't know, man. It just seems like it's karma has caught up with Snyder in a good way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like, again, I'm not going to name any names, but you and I both know several people that have been involved with Snyder on his sets, on various sets in the past. And I don't know fucking anybody that said anything bad about him personally. Like, even if you don't like his movies, like, everybody just says, like, he's fucking awesome ass director, Like, on set, being with him, it's a good vibe, generally speaking, compared to other sets that these people have been on. Again, no names, but it's
contrast that with Whedon.
Yeah, and contrast that. So it's just, I'm really, I'm not religious, but I'm starting to see karma at work here.
Yeah. We do have to acknowledge as well, there's toxicity on the other side of this. Not just the fans of Snyder. There are people who were claiming for years that the Snyder Cut did not exist and calling fans crazy and delusional for wanting it. It's not, I would say that's on the lower tier of it, but then you have the extremes of people who hate Snyder's film so much that they claim that Snyder himself drove his own daughter to suicide, which is just fucking crossing the line.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, like, that's, like, fuck you, whoever thinks that. Don't even watch our show if you believe that.
There's awful shit on the internet, man. Just try to ignore it. Don't let it get to
So
you.
this is Are you talking to Snyder or to me?
I'm talking to you. Well, and
I don't really.
and everybody.
I mean, that's not. I mean, it's not my daughter they're talking about. You know.
I know. Well,
But this is why we wanted to do our own series. We have our own series, Man of Steel, Snyder versus Critics, as well as Batman versus Superman, Snyder versus Critics, because we wanted to show that we can understand and appreciate Snyder's films and read up on them and really educate ourselves on what his intentions were, while still having our own, criticism for it. We can love it. Andrew has said on here, you love Man of Steel, as well as agree with every single criticism you've heard about it.
Just about, yeah.
time.
I mean, and then that always confuses people. It's like, you agree with all the stuff that I don't like about it, but you still like it. Unlike, I don't know. Yeah, people I think are confused, but it is. I don't know, man. I mean, I defended Man of Steel for years. Still don't love the neck snap and all that kind of stuff, but it's just.
Yeah.
It was just I thought it was cool. It's subjective.
Yeah, and I think that it's something that's possible, because it's like, why wouldn't you want to try to enjoy the most out of what you've seen? Why wouldn't you try to do that? Why would you just want to hate?
Yeah, that's right.
We also wanted to show that we can have those criticisms without, you can obviously criticize a movie without disrespecting the artist or talking about him as a father or any of the other personal lines, lines that, you just do not cross, I think, as a critic. Right. The fan base, the Snyder Movement, has contributed $500,000 to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, thanks to efforts with donations, merchandising, auctioning off props. Basically, one of the great victories, Snyder's at one point even said, forget the movie. What you guys did to raise awareness for suicide prevention, that's the real story. Yeah. According to him. It's almost like, to him, that was a victory more so than even getting the movie out. The movie on top. The movie was kind of like a cherry on top.
Right.
In November 2019, a quote-unquote knowledgeable insider told Variety that the Snyder Cut, quote, was a pipe dream. There's no way it's ever happening. That did not age well, did it?
Yeah.
Around that time, in November 2019, Toby Emmerich calls Zack Snyder saying, hey, what if we release the Snyder Cut on HBO Max? HBO Max is coming out in 2020. What if we just did it? And Snyder was like, okay. And Warner Brothers is like, okay, so just release the footage that's on your laptop. They did not want him to. They did not want him to finish it.
Was it seriously the whole fucking Snyder Cut's on one fucking hard drive? That's just crazy to me.
I mean, maybe they're simplifying it for the sake of the story, but
maybe I hope it leaks backed up on one other drive as well.
It was probably a laptop with 3 other drives or something.
Never save it only on one drive, especially something like that.
Whoops, I lost the movie. Now
you
we have to
kidding me,
reshoot.
man?
Yeah. So initially, they wanted him to just release the raw footage, and he said, "Fuck no."
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And they're like, "Well, why not?" Because it's you don't have to. You already did the work. And Snyder says, "Because I know why you want me to release the footage. To release it like that." Quote. There are 3 reasons. 1, you get the internet off your back, which is probably your main reason for wanting to do this. 2, you get to feel vindicated for making things right, I guess, on some level. And then 3, you get a shitty version of the movie that you can point and go, see, it's not that good anyway, so maybe I was right. No chance. I would rather just have the Snyder Cut be a mythical unicorn for all time.
Right. He made the right decision there.
Oh, hell yeah. No, I mean, I think we would have done the same thing.
Definitely. It's not like Snyder didn't have anything else going on either. I mean, he's got major residuals going on, and he's got Army of the Dead coming out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Snyder Cut was then announced during a virtual commentary on Vero with Zack and Henry Cavill, as well as a panel of fans where they got to do a Q&A with the fans. And at the end, Henry Cavill said that Zack should show it, and Zack showed a promotional image of the Justice League with text saying that the Snyder Cut was on its way to HBO Max in 2021.
So Cavill did show support early on.
Yeah, he was part of the original announcement.
That is cool. I remember hearing something that maybe he was just being political, but I thought he was kind of the only one that was team Whedon at the time, but maybe I don't know. Who knows why? I don't even know what I'm remembering at this point.
A lot of these actors have to say a lot of stuff for publicity. During the time of when the Justice League was first released, I definitely remember, Henry Cavill saying that he was happy with the portrayal of Superman on that. But also, like, you're an actor whose movie was just released. You're not going to be like, well, my boy Ray Fisher got fucked over. Like, you're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, Ray Fisher also was pro Whedon for a hot second, but he was, he
had to be,
being paid. Yeah, it's interesting with Fisher because he's, it's his first movie, right? And he had kind of nothing to lose, which is why you get this battle with him in the studio now.
Yeah. We'll get into that in a bit, but Snyder estimates it cost $70 million in basically finishing up the movie with the virtual effects and everything. But this is important to note: Snyder did not get paid. He's like, I'm not getting paid anything.
That is interesting, dude. Okay.
Quote, I didn't want to be beholden to anyone, and it allowed me to keep my negotiating powers with these people pretty strong.
Yeah.
So
man.
he was already
liking
paid.
Snyder more and more now.
Yeah. He was already paid for the production in 2016. So he's just like, I don't need money. I don't need the money. Give the money to the, pay the people who can actually finish this, but don't pay me.
Snyder is doing all right. You know what I mean? Other than family issues, don't cry for Snyder.
Yeah, like a lot of critics have brought up like, you need $70 million to finish this crap. You could have used that money for like COVID research or something. But I'd argue no, it was the studio who wasted money in trying to change it with at least $25 million in reshoots. And look at all the bad publicity and all the money that they wasted on something that was a shittier version of this movie.
This movie also raised a shitload of awareness for suicide prevention. Otherwise, people, probably a lot of people Google what is For Autumn about, like people that don't know much about the movie, and I think that probably happened more than you think.
We also need to go into the fact that that money did go to post-production workers who were in need of work during the pandemic.
That is also true. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
This is karma like a motherfucker for Snyder.
Yeah.
What the fuck? I didn't even think about that. Dude, holy shit, man.
Virtual effects director Tamara Watts-Kent said, quote, Zack had a film that was already shot. Post can be done safely at home, and the VFX company really needed the work.
On April 30th. Boom. Snyder just fucking give and gives.
On April 30th, we were surprised and thrilled to hear the film was a go because they needed the work. Otherwise, they would have, they wouldn't have had anything. Yeah, exactly. So this helped, for all those people, it's just like, this could have gone to COVID research. I'm just like, look at all the money that went to suicide prevention and look at all the money that went to people in need of work in the entertainment industry who are not millionaires, who are not in mansions. They're not the George Clooney's or the quote-unquote Hollywood elite. Like, educate yourself. These are
Warner Brothers not giving out it's bad probably, but they're not going to give out $70 million for COVID research. It's just not what Warner Brothers is going to do.
Too. Like,
especially in the middle of a pandemic. They're doing this because they want to fucking bring out HBO Max has got to compete with Disney Plus. That's what it fucking boils down to.
They're dropping that money to get more money.
It's DC versus Marvel in a sense on streaming platforms.
Yeah. Snyder then asked to shoot more footage that he places in the final 20 minutes, which Warner Brothers said no. And Snyder said, quote, one of the rules of making the Snyder Cut was that the studio said no shooting of any kind. And then I just, of course, shot stuff anyway because suddenly... Wait, there's rules now on this? I didn't know. Is his correct quote.
Wait, he scheduled reshoots without Warner Brothers Express.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
He said that
How do you do that?
He said that the reshoots are done basically in his backyard.
Wow. That shot of Diana standing with the arrow. There's one shot, I think. It looks like looks like total green screen, but it's just like, dude.
Well, I don't know if that was from that, but yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't give a fuck. I'm on record saying on my Facebook anyway. I'm not really that picky about bad CG or CG that's not up to snuff with everybody
I'll take
else.
bad CG over bad script.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I am too. So it's just for me personally.
Bad CG is the worst of your at least of your problems.
It's not not a big deal, and like it's cool that he shot it in his backyard. Pretty much, that's awesome.
We're spoiled by the amount of CG. We are not spoiled by the quality of screenwriting.
Right.
I would say these days.
Right.
So that's why I would appreciate that a lot more.
The reality is made in the acting for me a lot of the time. Like you buy that reality because of the actors a lot of the time. That's how I feel anyway.
So that's why I would say that it takes even more talent to act against a green screen than it does, because of the fact that you have to use your imagination and act believably. And that some people, shit on superhero actors for like selling out and acting with all these effects. So I'm just like, if anything, that's more of a challenge from a craft standpoint, because you literally don't have anything to react to. Like, how easy is it for you to get somebody scared by just scaring them and filming the reaction? You can do that with anybody who's not an actor.
Right.
Now have somebody pretend to be scared with somebody they can't even see and do that believably, to the point that when you actually put that in the movie and all the effects, that, nobody in the audience is just like, psh, that's fake,
Right.
According to Snyder, Warner Brothers executives see the Justice League as canon and that this is just a one and done. Quote, they consider the theatrical cut as canon and that my cut as the Elseworlds some kind of cul-de-sac. We know the terms. Snyder also made sure to cut the studio mandated stuff that he shot, as well as ensure that everything that was in the movie was specifically stuff that he did. He said, quote, I would destroy the movie. I would set it on fire before I would use a single frame that I did not photograph. In reference to the Whedon cut. Yeah. I mean, can you blame him?
Bro, I mean, yeah. No, I can't blame him.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Ray Fisher took to Twitter in July 2020 to accuse Joss Whedon of abusive behavior and accuse John Berg and Jeff Johns of enabling Whedon's behavior, describing it as gross, abusive, unprofessional, and completely unacceptable. That same day, John Berg was the only one to respond, and his big comeback to him was, quote, I remember Fisher being upset that we wanted him to say booyah, which is a well-known saying of Cyborg in the Teen Titans animated series. That's his response.
Yeah, I don't know.
That is a weak-ass response.
I just don't know if any, let us know, Cyborg fans out there, what you thought of that, and
the addition of Booyah, or the fact that he didn't want to say Booyah?
The addition of Booyah, did that really do it for you, or not? Let's hear it in the comments, I guess. I mean, for me, I didn't. He says it in Injustice. He says it in the cartoons. I mean, it seems like a holdover from the '90s. To be honest with you, I don't know.
It comes from the Teen Titans animated series. It doesn't come from the comics.
It doesn't even come from the comics, does it? Oh wow.
No.
Wait, so Teen Titans Go?
No, Teen Titans.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but still, if it's not even from the comics, and it's just like, who gives a shit? I don't know. It's white people writing black people. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, I think the best person to respond to this would be Carrie Payton, who's the one who was voicing Cyborg for years on that show and on Teen Titans Go. So I would say he would be the one to chime in on that. But in terms of how it's like in Justice League, it was basically just there for fan service. And it's obviously, you got Ray Fisher saying, there was abusive behavior, and the best that this guy can hit back with is well, you didn't want to say booyah, so,
Yeah, it's weak.
You're the villain. Really? Come on.
It's weak.
When giving more information on what led him to speak out, Ray Fisher said, quote, what set my soul on fire and forced me to speak out about Joss Whedon this summer was my becoming informed that Joss had ordered that the complexion of an actor of color be changed in post-production because he didn't like the color of their skin tone.
That's fucking wild to me, man.
Yeah.
So, again, I don't, how do I say this? I know it's a thing amongst black people where they talk about lighter skinned black people seem to be more accepted in white society in America. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I feel like I've heard that before, and I just never really understood. I just didn't think that. I don't know. I just had never really thought about that myself, so I didn't really know that was a thing. But now you hear the story about Whedon actively doing it. If it is true, it's just wild, man. I feel like that's just insane. It's just, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it. What do you feel about that?
I mean, again, I feel like this is something that's asked about the people involved. But just FYI, color correcting is a thing in post production, regardless of who's in your movie. In terms of changing the color palette, you can see that in the difference between the two cuts.
You can change the color of the frame or the costume a bit.
Filters and everything. But
specifically skin color though is definitely.
Yeah, Ray's talking about a racially motivated reason behind it.
That's a whole other deal, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Warner Media basically took on the investigation, but Fisher initially called out that the original investigator was coming from Warner Brothers Studios itself, not from its owner, Warner Media, which means that the investigator was obviously biased in favor of Warner Brothers. The new investigator was Judge Catherine Forrest, or a former judge, now an attorney. And the investigation has reportedly involved at least two other people, two other women. There's probably others, but the two who I found, one of the most famous ones is Charisma Carpenter. Charisma Carpenter played Cordelia on Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel, both run by Joss Whedon, and she accused Joss of abusive behavior during her time on both those shows, including, especially during the time when she was pregnant, and Joss Whedon basically flat out asked her if she was going to keep it. As of this recording, Joss Whedon has yet to respond to these accusations from him, from Ray Fisher or Charisma Carpenter or Michelle Trachtenberg, who was in the show when she was 16 years old, and the only thing that she basically shared the day that Charisma Carpenter came out and spoke was, quote, there was a rule to never leave Joss alone with her in a room again. So
that's insane, man. I know
who
Michelle
knows
Trachtenberg
what happened.
from Harriet the Spy, one of the first Nickelodeon movies. Okay, yeah.
I remember that. Yes. Here's another person who a lot of people have talked about as well. Another person involved with the Justice League investigation was Nadria Tucker, a writer on Krypton as well as Superman and Lois, who was let go and has been basically pretty vocal about a lot of the experiences that she had working on that show. She took to Twitter to accuse Jeff Johns of basically white-splaining things to her, saying, quote, I haven't spoken to Jeff since the day on Krypton when he tried to tell me what is and is not a black thing. Nadria Tucker is African-American, by the way.
Yeah, that's it's just the evidence is mounting up, isn't it?
Yep. Also, I don't think I've heard Jeff Johns, like Joss Whedon, has not said anything.
It's not just from Ray Fisher at this point. It most certainly would seem, Ben.
Yeah. No, I mean, I believe Ray Fisher before. I think the more people coming out just makes his case stronger. It doesn't make me suddenly.
It does indeed seem strong.
Yes. When people said Nadria owed Twitter more information, she said, quote, HR saw my receipts. The Justice League investigation saw my receipts. They have already chosen how to respond. Now I'm responding to their lack of response. I owe this hell site nothing. Nadria, as of the day of this recording, has brought up that Warner Brothers has yet to pay her for the full season of Superman and Lois, saying, quote, the point is that I, a black woman, did the work and Warner Brothers is refusing to pay me for it. When I took the job on Krypton, my manager was like, I don't like Warner Brothers for you. And I was like, what could go wrong? Now I know. End quote.
Wow. It seems like a mess, man.
It is. So, And also, correct me if I'm wrong on the pronunciation on this for anybody who might be listening in. I'm just going off of it phonetically, but I might be mistaken. Anyways, after concluding its investigation, Warner Brothers announced that remedial action had been taken, though the studio didn't offer specifics. It seems like that remedial action came in the form of letting go of Joss Whedon from his HBO Max show, The Nevers, back in November. However, it seems like the tactic was for Whedon to be the only one punished for this because while Ray Fisher is outspoken in blaming Toby Emmerich, Jeff Johns, and John Berg for being complicit in the abuse, all of them are still currently in their positions. The current head of DC Films, Walter Hamada, was not, the head of DC Films during the time of Justice League's productions, but he did become involved in this when Ray Fisher was making accusations. And according to Fisher, Hamada called him up to try to protect Jeff Johns and John Berg and have Fisher just throw Whedon under the bus. Fisher refused, and promptly Ray Fisher's part was dropped from the upcoming Flash movie, which Fisher has obviously cited as retaliation for him speaking out against what happened with him and DC Films.
Man, just awful. All this shit. It's a God.
He also has been pretty vocal about the fact that Whedon himself is not the only one responsible for what happened with this. The studio is complicit, and Jeff Johns was an uncredited contributor to the writing of the Justice League script. Now, there's a lot of conspiracy theories about what happened during the release a couple weeks ago. A week before its release, the film accidentally leaked out for an hour when viewers were trying to watch Tom and Jerry. Something that I don't think has really happened on any streaming service where you click it and it's a completely different movie.
So you think
especially
there was
a movie
some
that's
sabotage going on somewhere?
I mean, how often does that happen?
It could be somebody that's like a Snyder fan in at HBO Max streaming headquarters. I don't know if
Yeah.
I don't think Snyder's behind those buttons. You know what I mean?
Oh, no. I'm not saying that Snyder was behind it. I'm saying that maybe there were, a lot of the conspiracy theorists say that this was some sort of sabotage
It's
in a way
fan,
to leak it
maybe
out.
a fan at the company that
Yeah.
that
It is fucking
pulled the
strange,
switch for
Yeah.
a little bit just for fun. Somebody that didn't care to get fired that day
Yeah.
as well. I guess. I guess we'll never know.
Yeah. Also, on the Monday of its release, there was supposed to be a select virtual screening for a lot of the fans who were personally invited, only for it to undergo technical difficulties and not show anything for hours, leaving fans in the afternoon on hold from being able to watch the film until the evening. Whether these are deliberate or not, the film has released on HBO Max, and as of the date of this recording, there are no announced plans to continue any of Zack Snyder's ideas for the films or to bring back Ray Fisher as Cyborg in any capacity. Toby Emmerich remains in his position as Warner Brothers, the head of Warner Brothers Group. Jeff Johns continues to be producer on the CW/DC shows like Batwoman, Superman and Lois, Stargirl, etc., and co-wrote Wonder Woman 1984. Ann Sarnoff, in charge of Warner Media Studio as CEO, says there are no plans to continue the Snyderverse, and brought up that they were happy with the results of the investigation that basically cleared all the execs involved. And Ray Fisher hit back saying, quote, apparently some folks at Warner Media think that a room full of executives saying we can't have an angry black man at the center of this movie and then removing all black and POC from that movie isn't racist. Odd. So, the hashtag release the Snyder Cut has grown into restore the Snyderverse, to have Snyder continue his vision. And we'll just end it with Vanity Fair's article ends with a great callback to Autumn Snyder wondering, what is my worth? What am I supposed to do? What am I about? And it says, quote, at the end, Zack Snyder is answering Autumn's questions for himself with the release of this movie. So, regardless of whether you like or hate the movie or the films, like, you might not even like either version of the Justice League movie, but it's hard not to root for Snyder at least getting it out there. Like, the victory itself is the release of this movie. The fact that it happens to be, the fact that we happen to have loved it is a huge cherry on top, I would say.
Yeah, I think so.
So,
I mean, I'm just
thoughts
glad,
on this?
I'm glad it exists. I'm sad that Warner Brothers
Yeah.
is still saying they won't restore the Snyderverse, but never say never, I guess. I mean, look what happened here with this one.
yeah. So, any thoughts on, or anything you didn't already know before?
I didn't know a lot of that, actually. I didn't know a lot of the details. Well, I didn't know maybe half of it. Of course, I knew about Autumn, and I knew Ray Fisher. Right. I didn't know that. Maybe I read about the angry black man part of it. I just, that was bad, and I try to forget it. I try to I don't know, just try to think positive during the pandemic. I forgot about that. Forgot about that part. But yeah, that's that wasn't good. Bold statement by me. But but yeah, I don't know. It's good to go over this. This is a lot different tone than what we normally how we normally converse here on this podcast. But this subject matter, more or less requires this kind of change in our normal tone. So, and I think we're beyond the many here, but I think it's hard to not cover this in detail as you just did. So
right, I felt like if I kind of just did broad strokes on the Ray Fisher investigation, it wouldn't do no pun intended, but it wouldn't do justice to his story or what he's been through or what the drama is on it. So that's why this is kind of its own episode as opposed to being part of our Justice League coverage. But we are doing a full breakdown of the different cuts of Justice League in our series called Justice League Snyder versus Whedon, where we go into why the Snyder Cut is better. But keep in mind, while we're referring to the theatrical release as the Justice League or the Whedon Cut, as we have acknowledged, Joss Whedon isn't solely responsible for what we saw in 2017. So
they hardly ever are. They're you see their name as director, but and they do make the majority of the big decisions, but there's also the producer or set of producers breathing down their back, and then the producers have, I'm assuming anyway, the studio head itself, like Tsujihara or somebody like that, on top of them also. So and pretty much nobody is. Well, I'm assuming Tsujihara it's a panel of
or had.
It's a board members, board meetings and shit like that. So that he's still the head cheese there, but he's still probably answering to a panel like fucking Steve Jobs was fired from Apple, so
Right.
so even if you're the CEO, even stuff like that can happen, and he was sort of let go because of his scandal as well. So that's not directly related, but still part of this whole story. So yeah, I don't know. It's a wild story, man. I feel like, was Hollywood this interesting in the 90s? Like, it's just weird. Like, we didn't see reshoots. We didn't see, actors speaking out like this. Well, before social media and stuff, they didn't really have. Man, if you're young out there listening to this, like, they might have said something in interviews and magazines, but before they had their own social media, they didn't have anything like really direct to their fans, like Instagram or Twitter or something, So
yeah, and I'd also say people are a lot more outspoken about abuse as opposed to I feel like in all previous decades, people would have just taken it because they didn't want to jeoprize their careers.
That's right.
Whereas now we have, all my respect goes to Ray Fisher, and that's also why I believe everything that he says, because of the fact that he's willing to put his money where his mouth is and put his career on the line to defend basically him. Not just himself, but also, the cast members and fight for what's right. I've brought this up in our Patreon episodes, but Ray Fisher's on record saying, like, hey, like Joss, John Berg, Jeff Johns, if anything I've said is untrue, feel free to sue me for defamation. He's
that's
basically
true.
prepared to back everything up, which is great.
That's true. He's really going to bat or whatever. Shit, man.
Yeah,
and Snyder giving everybody jobs during the fucking pandemic too. That was news to me as well. I didn't think about that. Like, it's just, dude, it's karma, man. Everybody says he's nice, and fuck, man. And now, like, it's just weird, man. We've said it before, but just like this whole upheaval with the nerd community with Whedon and Snyder, like, cut from 2016 to now, it's just a different world, kind of. The Snyder fans were always there, but now it's like we see really what's going on behind the scenes more and more. And God, man, it's just so wild. It's wild. Like it's just a different world.
It's changing even further, I think. Like, who knows what's going to happen after this? We're only like we're less than a week as of this recording, less than a week from the release of the movie.
Right.
Who knows what's going to happen from here on out?
That's right.
But I look forward to it.
Yeah, hopefully they'll reinstate the Snyderverse and other directors will operate within the Snyderverse, like Patty Jenkins and shit.
Yeah. I mean, and then even if they don't, if it's still something that was unmade, like, this is still a victory. As we said, this is why releasing the Snyder Cut was true justice. If he never makes another DC movie again, but he gets to, continue to have his career and everyone sort of knows, his talent and respects him, and he gets what he wants, then that's great for the end of the day. Along with Ray Fisher having a career, everybody, anybody who was involved with this, who was, a victim of the meddling or abuse, they deserve, they've earned, more than earned the right to continue to have a long and happy career of what they want to do.
And we can, as fans, start to normalize conversations about that's not how I see the character, but I respect his or her artistic vision. You know what I mean? Just any kind of conversation in that regard, I think, is interesting, because I don't like Batman killing people, but I don't know. I really like an artist getting his or her say. I want you people.
Of course, yeah.
People say, that's just not with Snyder so much, but in the past, especially when I was at film school, people would say, like, that's just the director jerking off on the screen, or something like that.
Right.
Like, but now it's like, I don't know. You just, not that, I don't know. It's hard to say. But yeah, definitely less studio interference, and just let art. Like, people forget that movies are fucking art. Let a fucking artist make some artistic shit, So, so yeah, that's basically it for me.
Cool. Same here. All right. Thank you very much for joining us. Go ahead and check out our Justice League Snyder vs. Whedon series that we're starting up, and we'll see you next time.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us on this quote-unquote mini, and not the normal episode, but we'll get back to our regularly scheduled program in the next one. So catch you later. Thanks.